The Fiat 500 is a car that's not just a mode of transportation, but a symbol of an era, a cultural icon, if you will. But how did this pint-sized wonder achieve such legendary status? Let's dive into the story of the classic Fiat 500, a tale of charm, ingenuity, and enduring appeal. The year was 1957. Post-war Europe was rebuilding itself, and Italy, like much of the continent, was on the rise. But there was a problem. Most Italians couldn't afford cars. They needed something small, economical, and affordable. Enter the Fiat 500, or the Cinquecento, as it's lovingly called in Italy. Fiat had a vision. They wanted to create a car that was accessible to the average family, something that could navigate narrow city streets with ease, but also take you to the countryside on the weekends. And they did just that. Designed by Dante Giacosa, the Fiat 500 wasn't just small, it was tiny. At just 9 feet 9 inches long, it was shorter than most of today's subcompact cars. But don't let its size fool you. This little car packed a punch. It had a 2-cylinder engine at the rear, air-cooled to keep things simple and cost-effective. The original model, the Nuova 500, came with just 13 horsepower. Yes, you heard that right, 13. It's hard to imagine by today's standards, but back then, it was enough to get the job done. This was a car for people who'd never owned a car before, a step up from scooters and bicycles. And it worked. One of the reasons the Fiat 500 was such a hit was its practicality. It was cheap to buy, cheap to run, and easy to park. And in Italy's bustling cities, where space is always at a premium, that last point was a game changer. You could squeeze the Fiat 500 into parking spots that other cars wouldn't even dream of. But let's not forget the design. There's something undeniably adorable about the Fiat 500. Its rounded shape, those big headlights like curious eyes, and that unmistakable silhouette. It's a car that makes you smile. And inside, simple but functional. A minimal dashboard, 2 front seats, and a small bench in the back. Sure, it wasn't luxurious, but it didn't need to be. The Fiat 500 was designed to be practical, and it delivered on that promise. Over the years, Fiat introduced several versions of the 500, each one refining the formula a little more. There was the 500D with its slightly larger engine, the 500F, which improved visibility with its redesigned doors, and then the 500L, which added a touch of luxury with better trim and more comfortable seating. Each iteration kept the spirit of the original while adapting to the needs of the time. And we can't talk about the Fiat 500 without mentioning the 500 Giardiniera. This was the station wagon version, with an extended rear and a longer roofline. It was perfect for small families, or anyone who needed a bit more cargo space. And here's a fun fact. It kept the rear-hinged suicide doors even after the standard 500 switched to front-hinged ones. By the 1970s, the Fiat 500 had become a global sensation. It was exported to countries around the world, spreading its charm far beyond Italy's borders. And it wasn't just popular with drivers. The Fiat 500 became a favorite among filmmakers, appearing in countless movies and TV shows. It was the perfect prop for scenes that needed a touch of whimsy or a dash of Italian flair. Of course, like all good things, the original Fiat 500's run eventually came to an end. Production ceased in 1975, and the car was succeeded by the Fiat 126. But even as it left the assembly line, the Fiat 500's legend was just beginning. You see, the Fiat 500 isn't just a car, it's a piece of history. A snapshot of a time when simplicity and ingenuity were key. And it's a car that's loved not just for what it was, but for what it represents. It's about freedom, mobility, and the joy of driving something that feels like an extension of yourself. And that's why, decades later, the Fiat 500 remains a beloved classic. Today, it's a collector's dream. Restored models fetch high prices, and enthusiasts around the world gather to celebrate this tiny titan. There are Fiat 500 clubs, rallies, and even museums dedicated to its legacy. People customize them, race them, and most importantly, drive them, because that's what they were made for. The Fiat 500 also inspired a modern revival. In 2007, Fiat launched a new version of the 500, blending retro styling with modern technology. It was a hit, proving that the spirit of the Cinquecento is timeless. But while the new model captures some of the old magic, there's something about the original that's impossible to replicate. Maybe it's the simplicity. In an age of increasingly complex cars, the classic Fiat 500 is a reminder that less can be more. It doesn't have advanced safety features, touchscreens, or autonomous driving modes. What it has is character, personality, and a connection between car and driver that's increasingly rare. Or maybe it's the memories. For so many people, the Fiat 500 was their first car, their first taste of independence. It was the car they learned to drive in, the car they took on road trips, the car they squeezed their friends into for adventures. It's not just a machine, it's a time capsule filled with stories and emotions. Whatever the reason, the Fiat 500 is more than just a classic car. It's a reminder of what's possible when design, innovation, and heart come together. It's proof that sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact. So here's to the Fiat 500, to its past, its present, and its future, to the car that brought Italy to the world and the world to Italy, and to the millions of people who've fallen in love with it over the decades. The Cinquecento may be small, but its legacy, that's as big as it gets.